Yes, what's going on? What's going on? Welcome in. So it's episode 3 of the weekly podcast. Tyson, what's good, dude?
Dude, we made it. Labor Day weekend, and we're a week away from the home opener, man. Life is good right now.
It's crazy, man. Like, on one hand, like, half of me is kind of like the offseason flew by because I felt like there was just so much happening with, the whole, like, Pat McAfee show, the Aaron Rodgers chase, the draft with Will McDonald, and just all these different things. The OC situation with Nathaniel Hackett. But now that I'm sitting here, like, literally a week away, like, as far as, the day that we're filming this, like, a week away, like, thinking back on just like all those memories, like, man, like it was actually a long time ago. I'm just so ready for the regular season.
Bro, it seemed like an eternity, the whole trade thing that, like you said, the McAfee show. It seemed like that was like 6 years ago. And now it's like, it's almost surreal. Like the Giant game was kind of surreal seeing Aaron Rodgers in the green and white playing football for the Jets. And now it's like, it's here. Like all the talk is done. Everything's done. The hype is there. But now it's like, it's got to translate to the field, man. So like, I'm excited, man. I love football season. College football's back. So it's like, it's just a fun time to be a fan of football.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point. How it's like they have to go on the field and execute. Joe Douglas was actually talking about it. Like, we don't really care what the outside expectations are. Like, we're kind of embracing it. But at the end of the day, we have to go out and focus on Buffalo. Like, we can make all the offseason moves that we want, spend all the money, draft all these players. But if it doesn't translate, then, what's kind of the point,
Especially when DJ Reed saying it could be one of the best defenses of all time. Like, you can say all these great things. You can hype up as much as you want. But you got to do it on the field. That's when it matters the most. And in the past, we've seen Jet teams that have talked and didn't back it up. And we've seen teams talk and do back it up with Rex Ryan. So I'm excited, man. This is probably the most exciting I've been since probably 2010 for a team, man. Because it's just like, it's tangible. Like, it's legitimate talent, both sides of the ball. And you have Aaron Rodgers. And it's just, I'm ready, man. I'm ready to preview. I'm ready to predictions, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, dude, let's hop right into these predictions. So I think the first thing up right on your list here was the season predictions for, what do you want to do? Like individual stats for Aaron Rodgers or overall?
Because the one thing is, it's like everybody talks about Rodgers. You see some of the crazy stuff on Twitter right now, like Rodgers and got 5,000 yards and 45 touchdowns and all this stuff. So it's like, all right, like we all have different expectations for him. But what do you think he's going to do this season? Like literally, like, we don't have to say like exact yards, like 3,412, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Man, it's honestly tough to predict because it's like I'm just so used to seeing. I mean, one thing that's just mind blowing is like the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick, that what was it, 2015 season, like he broke all those records. He's still like number one. Like it's been years since 2015, and he's still like number one in multiple categories. I don't think it's a stretch to say that Aaron Rodgers could break all of his records this season. And literally could be like, passing yards in a season, touchdowns in a season. It's just Rodgers going on the list. I don't want to say anything too crazy, right? Like guaranteed Rodgers is going to be the, season's MVP. He's going to throw for however, 40 plus touchdowns or anything. I do want to not necessarily take it slow, but just understand that the fact that we're playing really, really good defenses, early on, not saying that Rodgers is going to be ineffective, but just
4,000 yards.
There's some damn good teams out there, and they all know who's playing QB for the Jets now. It's not like a situation with Mike White or a Zach Wilson or anything like that. But with that said,
this is a long disclaimer, man. You're giving yourself disclaimers already right now. You can just give an answer. We're not going to hold your feet in the fire, man. Be like, you know what? Back in September, you said this. You're not going to go after you, man. We'll be patient.
I'm going to say 38 passing. I'm going to say like 36 passing touchdowns.
Okay.
Man, so high 30 TDs. I'm going to say 12 picks.
That's fair.
Because I do feel like although there is going to be, a pretty big reliance on the running game, I do feel like there's going to be some shootouts with the Bills, with the Eagles, with the Chiefs, and all these different great teams that the Jets have to go toe to toe against. So I do feel like we will be throwing the ball quite a bit. So, and also, you're not going to go trade this package and take on Rodgers' deal and all these different things to just hand the football off, and that be, we're the new Tennessee Titans. You know what I mean? Like we're putting a lot on Rodgers' plate with, him coming in and being the leader of this football team moving forward. We gotta, let him throw the football, let him do his thing.
How many passing yards?
Definitely 4,000 plus. I would say probably 41 to 4,200. That's kind of my range.
Yeah, I'm in the same ballpark as you. Same like 4,100, 4,200. Passing touchdowns, I'm actually like same board, 35, 36. The interceptions, I'm thinking maybe 15. I think it's going to be the learning curve and the growing pains early on in the season, plus good defenses. But it's just getting acclimated to everything, man. I think just your new teammates, new environment, new offense in this city. So I think it maybe have a little more interceptions probably earlier on in the season, and they clean it up as they finish out the season. But I think that's we're in the same boat with that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another thing too, it's just like throughout Rodgers' career, it's like he does pit like when he gets in rhythm, like
Yeah.
he gets in rhythm and
Yep.
he's just firing on all cylinders
Yep.
and the offense is just moving. It just seems like every time the ball leaves his hands, it's it ends up in a wide receiver's hands.
Yep.
Um, so that's one thing. And then on the other hand, if we, to understand that and then look at the Jets schedule, it's like, all these great teams, all these great defenses
Yep.
packed into the first half of the season. But if we could, I don't want to say weather the storm because I believe the Jets are going to be right there with the Chiefs,
Yep.
right there with, all these, great teams. But when we get past that like midway point,
Yep.
we're looking at Washington, we're looking at Atlanta, at Houston. I don't
Yeah.
know how Cleveland's going to be this season. There's going to be, some games in the back half of the season where it's just like, hey, we can literally go on a 4 or 5 game win streak. If everything, pans out well.
Yeah, and he puts up big numbers where it's like you said, they're going to have some grinding games where it's like it's 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, nothing like really gaudy. Then you had that part of schedule where it could be like you're going to see your 360, 370, 3 touchdowns, and that's not even being like unrealistic. It's just the level of talent on this team versus who they're going against. So you go from the quarterback to the running back position is really interesting, man, because I do fantasy football drafts. And everybody's like, who do you take, Breece Hall or Dalvin Cook? How do you figure out how many carries they're going to get? So you look at the running backs. Who do you think leads the team in rushing this year?
Man, it's good. It's so tough because I don't know the exact plan on how the Jets are going to roll.
Yep.
I would think Dalvin is probably getting the bulk of the snaps early on, and also understanding that Cook and her defenses in the pass game as well. He's not some one-trick pony running back. So I do feel like Dalvin probably in the first half, and then maybe Breece in the second half of the season. Not because Cook is slowing down or getting banged up, but just because Breece is that good. People were talking about him if he stayed healthy last season as a legit top 5 running back, like running back, not rookie running back, top 5 back in football. So I think for that reason, it'll probably look pretty similar, but I do feel like Breece Hall at the end of the season will probably numbers wise look a little bit better.
So do you think either one can get close to 1,000 yards or no? Are they both think so?
Yes, I do.
Really?
Given, I guess I'm kind of cautiously saying that, depending on if the offensive line stays healthy, right? If we, are 2 weeks into the season and we're missing 3 guys and, ABT's out and we have to swap positions and all, the stuff that we were doing last year, then let me, I'll probably pump the brakes on it. But if it's the solidified 5, starting 5 week in, week out, I feel really, really good about, either one of those guys getting 1,000 yards.
Now, who's going to have more rushing touchdowns, Cook or Hall?
I'm going to say Cook. I
so
think I think in the shorter yards, situations, the goal lines, the 4th and goals, the 3rd and goals, if you will, the 1 or 2 yard like grinding types of plays, we would probably opt for Dalvin because we look at, Dalvin's a veteran running back, he knows how to find the end zone, right? He's been doing it his entire career. Not saying that Breece Hall can't, but I think I would rather see Breece in the bulk or probably between the 20s, if you will, more so than Cook. And then once we get into the red zone, that's when we could really just start, pounding Cook, against the defense. So that's kind of my outlook on it. But again, I don't really, it's tough to tell because the Jets literally have 2 RB1s on the team. If they opt for Cook, the majority of the time, I'm not going to sit here and complain.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. It's like they even asked Saleh today about like how they're going to give out the carries. They're both coming off injuries, one more serious than the other. But it's like, how are you going to divvy them up? Who's going to and I get the feeling they're going to probably start off with Hall kind of slow, working back in slowly. That's where Cook's going to get his yards and all his touchdowns, I think. But I think you made a really good point. What I agree with, I think in the goal line situations or their gold zone, whatever they call it now, I think Dalvin Cook gets featured a lot. And I think if you had to do rushing touchdowns, I think he'll probably be 10 to 12. I think he's going to get a lot because that's where they're going to pound him, close out games. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. They'll probably feature Cook as well. So I think Hall probably gets more yards at the end of the season, like as a total, but I think Cook gets the touchdowns.
I do too. Kind of a situation like Jamal Williams a little bit last
Yes.
season
Yep.
in Detroit,
100%.
where like you look at the rushing stats, or you mentioned fantasy before, like this dude's just getting in the end zone. Like, how does he have so many touchdowns? And
Yep.
he's not like the RB1 for
Yep.
Detroit, like consistently they had,
Yep.
multiple guys there. So I do see Cook kind of not necessarily in like a similar role. Like he's not like the defined backup running back
Yep.
who's only coming in on certain situations. But I do feel like once we get into the red zone, once we get in,
Yep.
within whatever it is, 10, 20 yards, it's just like we can really, again, just kind of put him and just let him go, attack the defense and just kind of
Yes.
grind him down. So, yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, so you go to running backs, which is going to be interesting to see how they divvy it up. To the wide receiver group, which I think we both agree, they're going to feature Garrett Wilson a ton. Like he's poised for a monster year, and he had a monster year last year with a mismatch of quarterbacks. So you figure now he's got a legitimate, signal caller that can throw him the ball. He's going to be featured. I mean, can he beat last year's numbers? I'm thinking like Pro Bowl year, man. I have huge expectations for him if he stays healthy and Rodgers stays healthy. Can he outdo last year's numbers?
What? Oh, yeah, 1,000%.
Yep.
In my opinion, like, Garrett Wilson is kind of like, he's been the dude since the jump. Like,
Yeah.
top 10 pick. He was dominant at Ohio State.
Yep.
He comes in working with Mike White, Zach Wilson, all these different, all this adversity that really the Jets offense had, from top to bottom,
Yep.
with O-line, with Mike LaFleur, with play calling, with Zach, multiple QBs. Essentially, him kind of being the only real threat. Like I
Yeah.
definitely respect Corey Davis, but when you look at just Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis, who is the better receiver, it's easily Garrett Wilson.
Yep.
And then Elijah Moore was pretty much a non-factor last
Yep.
season. Conklin did his thing at tight end, but it was just night and day when you looked
Yeah.
at Garrett Wilson compared to everybody else. So he was able to put up those numbers, but you now add Aaron Rodgers to the mix. You also add guys like Alan Lazard and Dalvin Cook, and you have Breece Hall coming back. Hopefully,
Yep.
some more stability on the O line. All of a sudden, it's not like think about if you put yourself in the shoes of a defensive coordinator last season.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you trying to stop on that off? Like let's say like week 8 and
Yep.
beyond, right? Who honestly are you focusing in on? Like this guy cannot beat us. It's Garrett Wilson,
100%.
right? Especially with all the injuries that the
Yep.
team had this season, though. It's just like you can't really afford to do that because you got Breeze coming out of the backfield. You got to stop Dalvin Cook. Oh, Aaron Rodgers off of play action. We have to make sure that we're getting pressure on Rodgers because he can get the football out quickly.
Yep.
We got Alan Lazard at wide receiver now, so Randall Cobb too in the slot. So
Hardman too.
Yeah, Hardman's another guy.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's wild to think about the weapons, but on one hand, you can make the argument, well, because we have these new acquisitions, there's only one football, the numbers could go down a little bit, but I'm kind of in the reverse mindset where it's like, I think these guys are just going to free up space for Wilson to make plays. And another cool thing too is like Rodgers, we're seeing it in Hard Knocks and we're seeing it in One Jets Drive, but even in that preseason game, right, in the joint practices and in all training camp practices, really as a whole, these guys have already formed that connection.
Yes.
It's not like one of these things where it's like, oh, hopefully they work. Because we have seen, big name wide receivers get moved to a new team in the past, and it just doesn't click.
Yep.
But it seems like with these guys, everything's clicking. Where do you kind of stand?
I'm with you, man. I think he has over 100 catches. I think, and they're going to feature him. Like they're not going to be bashful about it. Like we're going to keep throwing you the ball until you stop it. And that's one thing. Like you saw Rodgers with Devontae Adams. You knew the ball was going to Devontae Adams, and you couldn't stop it, right? So I think they're going to do the same thing with Garrett Wilson, feature him, and then if they do try to do things, the Jets have the luxury of having other targets as long as they're consistent catching the ball, which is a concern with Lazard and Hardman. It's like they're going to be open, catch the ball, make your plays. But the question I have for you is, in terms of like leading receivers on the team, Garrett Wilson probably had the most yards, probably the most catches as well. But in terms of receiving touchdowns, I'm gonna throw a name at you. I think a surprise is gonna be Conklin this year, man. I think that Conklin is poised for a pretty big year as well. Not the same gaudy numbers as Garrett Wilson, but you could get like 75, 80 catches, man, and have 900 yards and 10 touchdowns. Am I crazy? But I think he can, because Rodgers features a tight end. He's a big dude. He's shown like the ability last year. He was kind of inconsistent. He's a better player than he showed last year. I think he could have a really big year for the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, he was always solid for Minnesota. Like when they had consistent quarterback play. I mean, he's a former teammate of Dalvin Cook.
Yep.
Minnesota, say what you want about him, winning a bunch of close games and whatnot last season. And, kind of the failures of Zimmer, like not working out. But, you look at that Vikings offense, like throughout the years, like they've always been,
Yep.
they've always had options. And Conklin, to me, always separated himself, always carved out a role, back with Minnesota. And, I think although I'm super, super excited about Conklin, I just don't know if it's tough because I just look at CJ Uzama being on the
Yep.
roster. I look at Ruckert being on the
Rucker.
roster. I don't feel like those guys are just going to ride the bench every single Sunday
Right.
from start to finish. I do feel like both of those guys will have a role with the team, but
Yep.
no, I think you're right. I think Conklin's numbers will shoot up from last season pretty much in every category, TDs, catches, and yards. And also looks too, like just
Yeah.
attempts, like passes
Yep.
thrown his way, I
Yep.
think will be huge. But I think overall too, attacking the middle of the field is the way to go. You have Alan
Yep.
Lazard on the outside. You can, shoot Hardman down the field,
Yep.
but looking at Cobb, looking at Conklin, running backs out of the flat, just little, the simple check down stuff. Garrett Wilson too, slants over the middle of the field. I think
Yep.
we could really exploit team defenses linebackers.
Now, Lazard's an interesting player because we're all big on Garrett Wilson. I'm like high on Conklin. You figure the running backs are going to catch passes out of the backfield. There's a lot, like you said, there's only one football. There's only so many opportunities. What are like a reasonable expectation for Lazard this year in terms of like catches and yards? It may not be, he got paid a pretty good amount of money to come here, but the stats may not match the numbers, I think, right? I mean,
Yeah, so kind of for real. Like I'm thinking for Lazard, it's going to pretty much be what we saw last season, from him in Green Bay, and just kind of know the good. I know it could be framed kind of in a negative light, but for me, it's a positive. I think we know what we have in Lazard: big body target, big catch radius, red zone threat, a wide receiver that can block extremely well, in the running game, somebody who can box out corners, and also somebody that has playing experience with Rodgers
yep,
and hands-on experience with Nathaniel Hackett too.
yep,
Understanding the system, trying to be that coach on the field too. So, and also because Davis retired, I think Alan Lazard,
yeah,
he has his role within the offense,
yep.
and I don't feel like there's anybody really like knocking on the door or uh, you know, quickly approaching him on the depth chart, if you will. Where do you kind of stand with Lazard?
I'm the same boat, man. I think with Davis being gone, there's a lot more pressure on Lazard to get numbers. He's going to have a lot more opportunities. But I'm also curious to see how much Cobb gets involved now because Cobb has that excellent chemistry with Rodgers. And also he's healthier now. He's admittedly saying he had surgery. He feels better than he's felt in years. And he's making all these great catches in camp. He's coming on. So I'm wondering, how does Cobb take things away from Lazard a little bit?
Yeah, that's true. And I'm looking at Lazard's numbers now. So last season was obviously his best year with
Yep.
60 catches, 788 receiving yards,
Yep.
6 TDs. And then this season before that in 2021, 40 catches. So really from 2019 through 2021, so we got 3 seasons here, the stats pretty much mirrored each other,
Yep.
right? Roughly 450 to 500 receiving yards, 33 to 40 catches.
Yep.
2021, 8 TDs. The 2019 and 2020 seasons, 3 touchdowns each. And then, like you were, let's see, yeah. So 2022, kind of all 3 stats just exploded. 6 touchdowns. I know that's less than 8 here back in 2021, but overall, Alan Lazard, I feel like everybody knows his role. The Jets
Yep.
know his role. He knows what his job is supposed to be within
Yep.
the offense. So Garrett Wilson definitely will be the featured number one receiver,
Yep.
but Lazard has his responsibilities carved out, and I don't think anybody else can really replicate them at the same level.
No, I completely agree, man. And the offense can be so much fun to watch as opposed to years past, which is nice, man. We can watch like a competent NFL offense with superstars and a high flying offense with a good passing game. Now, defensively, it gets interesting because the defense is loaded, dude. I mean, it's probably, they could be a top 5 defense. I mean, they have legitimate pass rushers all over the place. You got great corners. So the easy question for you, this is a very easy question, Ian. Very easy question. Who's gonna lead the team in sacks?
You think that's an easy question?
I'm busting your chops, man. I gotta make you uncomfortable.
I'm gonna say Quinnen Williams, man. Quinnen Williams
Yeah.
again. I think he's so dominant, and yes, of course, adding McDonald. Yes, of course, looking at Jermaine Johnson off the edge. I think the defensive line is just like you can literally like if you were to say Jermaine Johnson, if you were to say whoever, Will McDonald or
Yep.
Bryce Huff, like I wouldn't argue with you.
Yep.
Like it's just like that's a great answer, Like
Yep.
I really don't feel like you could go wrong. But with Quinnen, not only have we seen it, but we've seen play where it's literally unstoppable. Quinnen
Yeah.
Williams, in my opinion, was what a top 2, top 3 defensive tackle in football last
Yep.
season behind Chris Jones, Aaron Donald. He's stopping the run. He's getting after quarterbacks. It's not just the sacks, it's the QB hits.
Yep.
It's just getting in the backfield. It's showing pressure in the quarterback's face to kind of get him off balance. Um, I also think it's totally cool that his brother Quincy, we brought him back on a multi-year deal. So, and we know what he can do speed wise. As far as like Quinnen maybe forcing a quarterback out of the pocket, and then Quincy coming in as like a heat-seeking missile to go like hawk down that mobile quarterback. And that's another thing too. We play a lot of mobile quarterbacks this season. I mean, just in like the first half, it's Prescott, it's Allen, it's Jalen Hurts, it's Pat Mahomes, Russell Wilson. Like there's going to be moments where we have to have the speed defensively to get after quarterbacks. But Quinnen is kind of that first step, if you will, to not only just sack the quarterback, but to ruin plays, to get the quarterback off rhythm here. But for sacks, I mean, what are you kind of thinking?
I'm thinking this.
By the way,
Yeah.
I don't know really what to expect from Carl Lawson either.
Yeah, that's the
Just
disappointing
because
one.
there's going to be so much rotation there. I don't know how big. Like, I think it's man. I mean, I guess like if you're just kind of thinking like Madden perspective, right? Like, who's the best pass rusher, or sorry, who's the best defensive end on the Jets? I think a lot of people would probably point to Carl Lawson,
Yep.
but I don't know if I don't know. Like I just don't view Carl Lawson as that like double digit sack guy where he's going to get like 12, 13. But with like Jermaine Johnson on the outside, like I do like see that ceiling,
Yeah, see, for me, it's like all the pressure off the edge helps Quinnen Williams so much. Where you have Jermaine Johnson off the edge, Bryce Huff off the edge, Carl Lawson, that keeps the quarterback in the pocket right where Quinnen Williams wants him. So I think he's going to get you your 13, 14, 15 sacks, which is enormous. And all these other guys, I think, are going to give you 6 sacks, 7 sacks, 8 sacks, which is fine. Like Bryce Huff could have 8 sacks and like a closer role. Like just bring him in on 3rd down, attack the quarterback, come in, and he'll rack up his numbers. But I think it all starts and ends with Quinnen Williams, man. He is a dominant force that is disruptive. Many times he can't be blocked, right? So it's just the one challenge is what you mentioned before is a lot of the mobile quarterbacks where if he does flush him out of the pocket, that's where Jermaine Johnson or whoever else cleans him up. But Carl Lawson to me just remains, it's just disappointing. I'm a fan of his, and he's been hurt. And it's like now he's like, oh, now Saleh can't even commit to week 1. Like he may not even start the season with us. So for me, I'm more confident in like Jermaine Johnson and Huff. Maybe McDonald does some work too. Because Carl Lawson, I think right now you can't count on him until you actually see him on the field consistently.
Yeah, and like another thing too, it's just like you can't I mean, of course you can periodically, but you can't consistently from start to finish double Quinnen Williams.
Nope.
Like you just can't do it. The Jets have too much talent elsewhere.
Yep.
Even looking at like Quentin Jefferson on the inside.
Yeah.
What's he known for? Rushing the passer,
Yep.
So it's like, sure, you can try to neutralize Quinnen, but then you just have to like roll the dice every other play, trying to stop all the Jets rotating talented players.
Yeah.
All these guys are like on one-on-one matchups. Like it's going to be really difficult. Like,
yeah, John Frank Lemeyre's a hell of a player too. Like we don't even talk about him enough. Like it's like there's so much talent. You have Al Woods on top of the run, but like John Frank Lemeyre is a very good player that we know. But it's like we're just so much, dude. It's awesome. It's refreshing because for years we had no pass rushers, and now we have a plethora of them. But now it gets interesting though for you is who's going to lead the team in interceptions? Where last year the Jets notoriously have a problem getting the ball. They don't get interceptions. They don't get the forced fumbles. They don't recover anything. But I think this year with that pass rush we just talked about, they're going to have a ton of opportunities to pick the quarterback off, especially late in the game where quarterbacks are forced to pass. Who leads the team in interceptions? Yeah. And I got a surprise answer for you too. You're gonna like this one.
Let me guess. Is it Tony Adams?
Nope.
No? Okay. So like my first instant kind of, answer to the question is DJ Reed. Because I feel like, Sauce just being like elite, I don't think, QBs are going to look his way that often, and they're going to opt for, the second option, or, they might move their number one to kind of get on the same side of the field as DJ Reed. And, he showed that, hey, he has great ball skills. Hey, he can, flip his head around and make a play on the football. Even though he's not the tallest guy in the world, he can go out and cover taller receivers, and he has like the vert to go make plays. So and also just knack for finding the football. So I think DJ Reed is kind of the easy answer here, but like you said, a lot of shootouts, a lot of great quarterbacks, because the Jets have a good offense now. I think there is going to be pressure from other teams' opposing offenses to get in the end zone consistently, because like in years past, although, like, for example, if you are the Bills, right, or if you're New England, right, you're looking at the Jets offense like in like the preparation throughout the week, like getting ready to play this team. You aren't saying to yourself, man, we got to put up 30 to beat them.
Nope.
Like that we have to do that to win. It's like, no, if we can get 17 points, we can beat this team. So in other words, let's not force the ball down the field. Let's not shoot ourselves in the foot offensively. Let's just go out there, control the clock, hand the football off, check it down, and just kind of control the game really from start to finish, and let our defense go out there and get after Zach. Let's force him. Let's confuse Zach to where he's throwing interceptions and is just completely missing. Just looks like he has no idea what he's doing. We're just confusing the quarterback. Ripping by the banged up, injured O-line. This season, though, I don't feel like offenses, the Josh Allen led offenses, the Pat Mahomes led offenses. I don't see a situation where they're leading up, in game week, they're practicing, they're preparing to play New York, where they're saying, yeah, we can really hold this team to 13 points. It's not going to be an issue. It's like, okay, we might need to score 27, 30, 34 points to beat them. So we're going to come out firing early on. So with that said, I think a lot of shootouts could take place. So I do feel like Tony Adams, not a lot of tape on him, when the big arm quarterbacks that we face, if they do try to push the ball down the field, Tony Adams has, the roaming abilities, based off of what we saw last season and preseason, and even like his regular season time too. And also just kind of the nod that the coaches are giving him, right? They essentially, said he's the starting free safety literally during the Hall of Fame game because he didn't play, like undrafted free agent. Like, what does that say? It says he's pretty damn good at what he does. And what does he do? Flock from sideline to sideline. So I think Adams could be underrated, right? Those late game INTs.
See, I was torn between Michael Carter, because I think, like you said, people are going to test Sauce for a point, but they're going to go away from him. DJ Reed's a very good corner too, Pro Bowl caliber. They may try to go to attack the slot, but my surprise answer is my good friend Jordan Whitehead. I think he's going to be the guy that he looks like he's in better shape. He looks faster. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities with errant footballs, because I think quarterbacks are going to get pressured, rushed. There's going to be a lot of errant passes late in the game, all that stuff. So he may not have a Pro Bowl caliber year, but I think he's going to have a lot of interceptions just because of opportunities to be presented to him just by the nature of our defense. It could be like, 6, 7 interceptions is a big year. Like that's a lot for us. You know what I mean? So he gets that. Yeah. And I think it's just my sleeper picks. So don't roast me if I'm wrong, but it's just my thinking outside the box idea.
No, it's cool because it's like, you're thinking about like tipped passes. You're thinking about, Jermaine Johnson, like wrapping up Josh Allen as he's trying to escape and he's trying to force a pass. 100%. And then it's like, oh, bam, it's in a double coverage and Jordan Whitehead's right there. It's kind of like those off script when things get crazy on, the opposing offense. Jordan Whitehead is, he can play down in the box. He can, blow plays up. So I definitely see, and also second year in the system as well.
Yeah, he looks like he's in much better shape too, man. Like I noticed that in the Giant game when they tested Sauce, Whitehead flew over them, man. It was like, oh, like who's this guy? Like where'd he come from? I'm like, oh, it's Jordan Whitehead. But like Tony Adams is good too because he's got so much range, man. He can go sideline to sideline. He can fly around. He'll get plenty of opportunities too. So in terms of defense, though, like DJ Reed was talking today about this could be a historical defense. Do you think this is like a top? Do they have the top 5, top 3 ability as a defense, or is it the schedule make it a little more difficult because they're going to face so many high-flying offenses, especially early on?
Yeah, I mean, my kind of stance on it is like you can be a great defense, but the stats, they might not match up all the time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to, like, you can roll out a bunch of great players and have a great defensive system, but if you're constantly going up against stacked offenses and your offense is pretty good, like, for example, like the Buffalo Bills have a really good defense, right? But when they play the Chiefs, it's a shootout, right? The games
Yeah.
are going at like the 30s and the 40s. It's not because the Bills defense sucks. It's just because it's like the offenses are so
Yeah.
good. They're going back and forth. And we all know kind of like how the game is called these days,
Yep.
and can't touch the quarterback, pass
Yep.
interference and holdings and stuff like that. It's all about the QB, all about like scoring as many
Yep.
points, exciting stuff. But with that said, I 1000% believe the Jets will have the top, a top defense in football.
Mhm.
Um, Numbers wise, though, I don't know if it will necessarily line up where the Jets are, 1, 2 in every single
Yeah.
category. But I like without a doubt believe that the Jets will be like 1 through 6 in like every single
Yeah.
category. INT, just every single thing that you can think of,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of my stance on it. And to me, that is a top defense.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
it comes down to takeaways and just winning games. I think that you said like they're going to be a very good defense, but they're not going to like give up only 13 points a game. Like some of those defenses
right?
that are being referenced today historically are incredible defenses where you're only giving up 13, 14 points. Like the Jets defense gives up 19 points a game. They're still going to win 12, 13 games this year because they're going to be scoring 25. So I think they're going to be very good. I think you made an excellent point, dude. Like the stats may not show how good they really are, but they're going to be winning football games and they're going to have a presence. They'll be very physical, very fast, set the tone. They're going to close out games that they couldn't do in the past because of the
Yeah.
pass rush. I'm a little bit concerned about the run defense, but I think it'd be okay. I think Al Woods would be a big part there, but I think they're going to be very good, man. I think they're lined up to just dominate because they know that they don't have to hold the team to 9 points a game because their quarterback can score this year, as opposed to last year. They knew if they gave up 14 points, they're probably losing. You know what I mean? Because the
Yeah.
Jets couldn't score any points.
Mhm. Yeah, dude. I think for me, that's the one holdup, or that's like literally the only hurdle in my head where it's just like, Mac Jones, for example, like last season, I know we were talking about the Pats before, but it's
Yep.
like they aren't like, in other words, like they're fine punting
Yep.
against the Jets last season. Why?
Yep.
Because they know that Zach Wilson and
Uh-huh.
whoever, Mike White, they're not going to go on a 70-yard drive on
Yep.
that defense and score a touchdown. So it's just like, you know what? If we have to punt, we have to punt it. No big deal, right?
Right.
Or if it's little, 3rd and 11, we'll just take the simple check down. We'll run a draw. Take some time off the clock. Let's just get this thing to 0 because we know we have full confidence in our
Yep.
defense. We can just dominate, really.
Yep.
Although it's going to be tough against their defense, all we got to go snag is 13 points, 17 points. Can we hit the red zone a couple times, knock in a couple field goals? Sweet, we've done enough to win the
Yep.
game. This season, not going to happen. So I think again, from a numbers perspective, right? Stop all like we can go down the list of all these different like statistics. I don't think that the Jets are going to be like number one, number one, number one, number two,
Yeah.
number one, just because of that attitude adjustment from opposing offenses.
No, I completely agree, man. So now, as we do our little predictions and stuff here, what are your thoughts on the AFC East, man? What's the Jets' record to be in the AFC East? And I will tell you right now, as we're doing this weekly thing, if the Jets don't sweep the Patriots, I will be unbearable. Like you will not want to deal with me because I will be so irritable and agitated. Because I think if you want to win the AFC East and you want to make a run in the AFC, you've got to sweep the Patriots. You're probably going to split with the Dolphins and Bills, I guess. I mean, that's kind of, you'd like to try to sweep the Dolphins. I probably don't think they will. So if you go like 4-2 in a division, are you cool with that? Or is that what your expectation is?
I think really for me, it's kind of like, I'm more so, of course, you got to go get the divisional wins, right? I'm not so focused on the divisional wins as much. I'm focused on the final record, right?
Okay.
I'm looking at, if the Jets go, let's just say 3-3, they split in the division,
Mhm.
or go 4-2 in the division. I'm okay with it if the Jets are making the playoffs. If we have a better total record than Buffalo, than New England, than
Yeah.
Miami.
See, I'm already in playoff mode, man. I'm thinking about tiebreakers and conference record, all kinds of stuff. So I'm like, and I'm so hell bent on winning the AFC East this year because I want the home playoff game. You want all the benefits of winning the division, and it's just nice to do because the Jets never do it. But I get what you're saying, though, man. Like win 12 games, however you can. So if we go from you're not worried about AFC East record, what is your prediction for the season record for the Jets, man? Because now this one I'm writing down. So if you get it wrong, we're gonna be coming back in a year from now. We're gonna argue.
For sure. I mean, I'm thinking 11, 12 wins. I think that's totally realistic, especially who we play later on in the season.
Yep.
Um, I do feel like the Jets, I don't see a 15-win season.
No.
I don't see a 14-win season
Mm-mm.
because I do feel like there's going to be time, uh, time that needs to pass for the team to gel, especially offensively. The defense is going to do their thing, but I do feel like maybe early on, a couple weeks, tough opponents that have been, together for a long time. Because like when you think of like the teams that made the most offseason upgrades, if you will, the Jets are right there, probably in most people's minds as number one. Not many teams out there, I don't think, not counting rookies and like Houston and stuff like that, but like what teams out there made a change at OC and a change at quarterback and signed multiple weapons in free agency that are going to be featured within the offense, like Cobb and Lazard and Hardman and Dalvin Cook. It's like there's a lot of talented players, which I'm so excited for, but there's also just frankly a lot of new faces that you need time, that need a little bit of chemistry.
Yeah.
I think because all these guys are veterans, I don't think the onboarding process is going to be that long. I think it probably, and also the experience from Rodgers, Cobb, and Lazard working with Hackett, I think it's probably going to go quicker, or they're going to shake off the rust a little faster than, a normal situation. But with that said, 11, 12 wins for me.
Yeah, I'm in like an 11 win mark myself. And I think it could be a little slow early on, and that's fine. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint, man. 17 games. If they, if they're 2-2 or 3-3 at one point, I'm fine with that because you want to finish strong. Like you could look at the Jets last year. They started out 6-3 and 7-4, and you saw how that ended. So I'm not really worried about the early start. I'm worried about the final thing. But the one question I have for you, and we're gonna probably preview Jets Bills maybe like end of the week. The one thing I'm hearing a lot about, and I completely disagree with, is this Monday night game, September 11th, is a must-win for the Jets. And listen, I understand the importance of the game. It's a division game, home game, division rival, Aaron Rodgers' first game. You want all the hoopla, all the hype. I understand the importance of the game, but to me, it's like it's not a must-win, dude. Week one's never a must-win. Like I understand, like you want to get that monkey off your back and get your first win and start momentum, but like they lose, dude. And we're not gonna be sitting there panicking. Oh my God, week 2, we're playing the Cowboys. Season's over. Like same old Jets. This is terrible. Like I'm not in that mindset, man. I'm excited for the game. I think it's gonna be a great game, and like we'll preview it like later on. But I don't see this whole panic thing if the Jets lose week 1.
No, absolutely. I mean, for me, I can only speak for myself here. I'm not in a situation like that. I don't think it's a must win. I think like you, it's going to be a great game. Yep. I think that both teams will go back and forth. But with that said, if whatever the Bills manage to pull it out, it's not like we're 0-1.
Yeah.
I guess it stings a little worse because it's a division rival, kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. But we're 0-1. We got 16 games left, so I'm not going to be sweating it. Now, if the Jets fall behind 0-4, 0-3, I'm like, come on, like let's, we gotta pick it up a little bit. But even in that sense, right? Again, the easier games, if you will, are shoved towards the back half of the season. If the Jets need to go on a 4 or 5 game win streak to end the season, worst case scenario, I think that is totally realistic. But no, I think I'm with you. I think it's going to be a super close game. Probably, in my opinion, going to come down to a field goal, like a walk-off field goal, whether that's Rodgers leading the team down and Zerline kicking it in, or vice versa. Like that's kind of how I see the fourth quarter playing out. I don't see a blowout. I don't see a situation where either team is completely overwhelmed. Because at the end of the day, I believe both teams are great teams.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's gonna be a great game too. And I just think that there's gonna be some rust and just them getting used to each other on offense. Like it's a new offense, new quarterback. It could be a little rough early on, man. Like, and it's like, all right, they're gonna be working out the kinks for the first 2-3 weeks, right? The offense has got to get in sync. They got to get in flow. They got to learn all their technique, all their little strategies, and how they all react to situations. All right, this pass we thought was going to work, it doesn't work now. We've got to pivot. We've got to make adjustments. I think I have a lot of confidence in Hackett as a play caller to help them kind of speed things up, and Rodgers too, man, where it's like, all right, we thought this was going to work. Maybe the offensive line isn't as good as we thought it was going to be in run blocking. We can adjust. We can make changes, and you do it on the fly. But I think you'll see that as the weeks play out. So if week 1's kind of whatever, fine, like no big deal, man. Like we're going to be okay. It's like not that it's like we have a Hall of Fame quarterback now. It's like significant difference, and I think the level of playmakers they have on both sides of the ball gives me confidence where if you do start off slow, they're going to be okay. Like there's enough talent here to overcome it. Just we got to, like, as Jet fans, we got the one word we got to be is patient, which we never are. But I think in this situation we have to be, because you got to actually trust who they have on their team now, because they've earned that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I do think, to be honest with you, I think the Jets will win the game, but again, in the event that they don't, the season's not over. It's not time to hit the panic button or anything like that. It sucks that we have to play Buffalo so early on
Yeah.
because of, just, like the points that you were saying, how, there is going to be the onboarding. There might be some rust that needs to be shaken off early on. And unfortunately, we have to play, a great defense and a great team. And I know I've seen a lot of fans like kind of talking about Buffalo, like maybe falling off a little bit this season, or the Super Bowl window is closing, and like the Stephon Diggs drama
Yep.
and everything like that, which is fine. I don't think Buffalo is better than Kansas City. I don't think they're better than Cincinnati, but I'm not going to sit here and,
Mm-mm.
look at Buffalo and say, oh yeah, they're washed. Like they're, I'm not worried about them. I mean, they've won the AFC East 3 straight years now.
Yep.
That's, that hasn't been done. Like, we're so used to seeing New England just completely dominate the division
Yep.
for whatever it is. I pretty much my entire life until Buffalo figured it out.
Yep.
From a top-down perspective, like they know how to sign players, they know how to draft players, they know how to develop players, and they've added some pieces too. It's the AFC is like a arms race.
Yeah.
The Bengals are a freaking great team. They go out and they sign Orlando Brown. The Chiefs, Super Bowl winners, they're making changes on their on their O line.
Yep.
They're adding players. Chris Jones, maybe he's not back early on,
Yep.
but everybody knows what's going on with the Jets. But even like the Miami Dolphins too, like they went out, they were aggressive in Jalen Ramsey. They were trying to get Dalvin Cook. They were trying to go get Jonathan Taylor. I guess still are. I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
Bills, Leonard Floyd, Poona Ford, like they're making moves. Dalton Kincaid, like he's going to be a weapon for them. So it's going to be nuts. Ravens too, like Odell and all these different guys changing OC. Like the AFC is stacked, man. It is.
Yep.
I literally cannot, and I'm not just saying this to like hype it up or anything like that. I'm being dead serious. I cannot think of a season literally in my entire life where one conference was this good.
Yep.
Even like the bad teams in the AFC, like people want to talk about like the Raiders. You can list off like 5 great players that team has.
No, they're loaded. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I don't know, Tennessee, Indianapolis, like that's kind of Houston too. Like,
Yep.
those 3 kind of like clumped down like towards the bottom. Like Denver, right? Denver is a team that didn't do too well last season. Like in the grand scheme of the AFC, like they're not number 1, they're not number 2, probably not top 5, top 6, top 7. But it's like, hey, they have a laundry list of great players, and there's a ton of storylines there with Sean Payton. So the AFC from top to bottom, man, is just absolutely loaded, and it's going to be a dogfight. Literally, like, I don't care who we play. If it's an AFC game, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge.
Another thing too is that the Jets are on everybody's radar, man. The Jets are the biggest talk in the NFL. Hard Knocks, One Jets Drive, all this stuff, all these primetime games. You're gonna get everybody's best ever because they want to beat the Jets, dude. They want to beat the Jets. They want to beat Aaron Rodgers. They want to be the team that kind of like, oh, you know what? You haven't arrived yet. You're not on our level yet. Like you want to make. They want to even like when the Jets play the Eagles. That game's gonna be nasty because the Eagles will be like, you know what? You think you're one of the best teams in the AFC? We're gonna push you around a little bit too and show you the NFC still got a good, got their own good squads here. So I'm excited, man. It's like I think the difference this year between other years, the Jets can finally week in and week out compete with anybody, and that's something we haven't been able to say in probably 15 years. So I'm excited about it, man. I love that we're doing like a season preview, man. Because I'm like, oh, this is like now we know football is here, but this is probably the most exciting season we're gonna have in a long time, and I think the Monday night game will probably be the loudest crowd we've ever experienced at MetLife, man. I think it's gonna be tremendous. So I'm ready. I'm ready to do it, man. I'm ready to just experience football.
For sure. And to kind of piggyback off that point that you made about, teams looking at the Jets saying, or kind of having, a target on our back, that's what comes to being a good team.
Yes.
Like when you play Cincinnati, when you play Philly, when you play Kansas City, I don't care who you are. That other team, they know who they're playing. They know they're playing a former, in the case of the Chiefs, like the Super Bowl champions.
Yep.
Philly, they made the Super Bowl. Cincy, they made the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Yep.
Like everybody knows it, so it's like that just comes with being a great team. And it's sick that the Jets are on that level, totally cool.
It's refreshing, dude. It's nice to be relevant again and actually be proud of your team and be in a mix where we're talking about there's no controversy, there's no drama this season. It's like we have a good team, let it translate to the field and have a big season. That's it. Like there's no, we're here. Like there's nothing to really just argue about. Really, it's like right. They're
Just
healthy.
execute.
They're healthy too. Like the only that Chuck Clark, they lost him unfortunately, but other than that, they're healthy. They have everybody's in practice. Minus I think Carl Lawson's still banged up, but they're ready. They're ready, locked and loaded, man. So it's just a big year ahead. Hopefully we're happy all year. We deserve it. The Jets deserve it because we've been, irrelevant for a while now. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
Awesome, man. Any more closing thoughts before we wrap it up?
Dude, it's our third one we've done. We're becoming good at this stuff now.
All season, bro. All season. I'm so looking forward to it because it's like we're gonna be recapping the game and then previewing the other one. Like once we kind of get rolling in the season. My light completely died. That's why I'm like sitting here in the dark. By the way, I just looked at my camera. But yeah, that's gonna do it for us. I appreciate everybody hanging out. I know this is like 46 minutes here, so I appreciate it. And yeah, of course, all of Tyson's links are down below. And by the way, if you guys want the audio version, that's all on Let's Talk Jets Radio's they're like it's your podcast link.
Yep. I'll give you all the information, but all like if you search for Let's Talk Jets, all these shows, the audio is all over the podcast networks, Apple Music, Google. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, this show will be there. It's everywhere. So
and so of course, those links will be listed down below in the description as well. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.